Right in the middle of the capital of Ghana, there was a place that few have heard of, but its image will not be erased from your mind for a long time. Here the soil is black, the air you breathe is toxic, and life is worth less than a piece of copper wire. This place is called Akbuk Plush, where thousands of electronic wastes are sent from Europe, America, and China with usable labels, but the reality is that none of them are intended to be used, repaired, or recycled. Here they just burn, and with them the future of thousands of children is also in smoke. There are no schools in this scorched land. The children have neither bags nor notebooks. The only thing they carry is fresh wounds and the bitter smell of plastic fire. Most of them have no parents by their side, or were abandoned or sent here to help support their families. At such a young age, they learn how to set fire to cobble, how to extract hot metal from the ash layer, and how to work in heat above 40 degrees in smoke full of lead and mercury. Akbobukolochi is not a garbage dump, it is a hell where children grow old before their time. Ghana is a country in West Africa that, despite significant natural resources such as gold, cocoa, and oil, a large part of its population lives in poverty. Limited urban infrastructure, widespread unemployment, and economic inequality have made Ghana one of the main destinations for the transfer of electronic waste from industrialized countries. In the center of the country's capital, Accra, there is an area called Akbuk Pasham, one of the most polluted places in the world and the largest landfill and incineration site for electronic waste on the African continent. This area is divided into two parts by a polluted river with a black and stinking bed. The border between these two parts is on one side an area called Gomera, where electronic cables and boards are burned to separate the saleable metals from them, and on the other side, the Sodom area, which is inhabited by people. The living environment in Sodom is extremely unsuitable. Most houses are made of tin sheets and recycled materials. There is no sewage system. Surface water is polluted with human waste. Household and industrial waste all flow into an open canal that flows from. The area passes through a public and primitive sanitation system. To use them, people have to pay a fee to be allowed into a small room with no drainage system, a hole in the floor, and a bucket of water for washing.
There are no bathrooms, the waste disposal system is not organized, and access to clean water or stable electricity is very limited and irregular. Agbokdaluchi is not just a garbage dump. It has become a semi-permanent settlement for thousands of people who live in the absence of basic amenities in the heart of one of the most polluted environments in the world. But the path this waste takes is another story. A large part of these shipments are exported to African countries under titles such as repairable or donated, legal titles that are in practice a calculated trick to circumvent international laws. According to the Basel Convention, the export of hazardous waste from developed countries to developing countries is prohibited. However, with these fake labels, the shipments are declared legal and border inspections are deliberately simplified. As a result, waste that should not go anywhere ends up in Agbokdaluchi. The work system in Agbokdaluchi seems chaotic, but in fact it is quite clear and step-by-step. Everyone knows their role. At the lowest level, there are children and teenagers. Those who call themselves the metal police search the ground with magnets, in the dirt, fire, or even sewage, looking for the smallest piece of metal. Whatever they find is sold by weight, sometimes for a few cents, sometimes a little more. Here, even scrap metal is valuable. In the next step, a group of workers open the parts, the electrical boards. Capacitors, transformers, and motors are broken into pieces with hammers, wrenches, or sometimes just with rocks to separate the usable components. In the meantime, it's not just copper that is valuable. Aluminum, iron, durable plastic parts, and even bolts and nuts are also collected and sold. Those things that can be used directly, such as healthy parts, fans, keyboards, or batteries that still hold a charge, are taken to local markets. You know, it has its own market, a market full of broken phones, half-burned laptops, defective TVs, and household appliances. But these devices have another chance before they are thrown away. In small shops located on the outskirts of the workplace, repairmen inspect these devices. Sometimes some parts are replaced with healthy ones, and the device is sold secondhand and cheap. This part of the system is a kind of indigenous.
It saves things from complete death. In fact, everything still has value to someone even after its technical death. Nothing is completely thrown away in this area. Everything is either sold, burned, or rebuilt.
And this cycle continues because survival here is only possible for recycling. Not recycling in the scientific and clean sense, but recycling in the style of Agbuk Baluchi. At first glance, the problem in this area is only visible: garbage, smoke, and the smell of burning. But the real danger is what is not seen. The soil of Agbuk Baluchi is heavily polluted. Independent studies have shown that the level of lead in some places is up to 45 times higher than the World Health Organization's permissible limit. In addition to lead, heavy metals such as arsenic, mercury, and cadmium have been found in the soil, water, and even the bodies of the residents of this area. The air they breathe here is full of toxic gases, dioxins, and particulate matter from burning plastic and rubber. Clip for children. Pregnant women and young workers directly means respiratory disorders, damage to the nervous system, and in the long term, digestive and lung cancers. Drinking water is contaminated. The river that runs through the middle of the area has turned into black and toxic sewage with a pungent smell that irritates the eyes and throat when inhaled. This water is sometimes the only source of washing or consumption for locals. But perhaps the most bitter part of the story is the impact of this environment on the development of children. Children who are in direct contact with heavy metals, toxic smoke, and contaminated soil from a young age. Not only their health, but also their brain development, concentration, and future are affected. Medical reports have recorded numerous cases of skin injuries, burns with battery acid, open wounds, and chronic infections. But in the absence of medical centers and insurance, these injuries are part of everyday life. In Agbuk Baluchi, chronic illness and physical pain are considered part of work, and health is not something that anyone has the right to choose. Agbuk Baluchi is not just a polluted area, it is a global warning, a symbol of modern inequality, where the waste of one side of the world is buried or burned at the expense of the health and future of the other. Here, childhood has a different meaning. There is no school, no children's games. Instead of notebooks and pencils, they grow up with hammers and fire.
We replace our gadgets, we update them, and throw them away. But the traces of this convenience remain thousands of kilometers away on the burned hands of these same children. There is no question why this is happening. The question is, who is responsible? And more importantly, how long will this unjust system continue? Agbuk Baluchi is still alive. It burns, breathes, and creates ashes not only from broken technologies, but from the burned dreams of thousands of people. But perhaps something can still be done, not with pity, but with awareness, by seeing and not ignoring, because a future is buried here, and we are silently pouring it out every day. Thank you very much for being with us in this video. We hope you enjoyed watching it to the fullest. So in conclusion, and as always, until our next meeting, thank you very much for being here.